RotoGrinders. Welcome to the NFL Pre-Lock Show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHd, BlenderHD, if you want to follow me on Twitter. Joined by Will Priester, Chief Justice 06, here on the Chargers and the Broncos. Monday Night Football. We're about 35 minutes away from lock. We'll answer your questions in the YouTube chat. Give us those thummy thumbs. You know how much I like the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, anything you want. Maybe even Rob will troll you in chat if you're in there. Suki Singh here. Obviously, he's always at my shows, always early. Will, are you getting sick and tired of the Broncos in prime time?
Oh God. So here's what happens. We saw the Broncos pick up Russell Wilson, and I think we all thought the Broncos would be a lot better. And in fact, they look worse than what they have ever looked. And God, the Broncos, man, jeez, it's awful. It's really awful watching this.
But you have to admit the Chargers defense isn't looking all that great either.
No, it's not. It's not at all. I mean, what the Broncos would do to have Drew Lock back. That's how bad this team has looked. They don't want Drew Lock back, but you get my point. They're paying Russell Wilson a lot of money to end up in the same position they've ended up in the past few seasons. And it's starting to look like, Blender, dare I say, that Denver is where all quarterbacks go to die. It's that bad. It's terrible.
Yeah, but for the makeup of this game, it's a 45.5 total, but the spread's only 4 points.
No, it's not. It's like a 15.5 total.
I've been looking at stuff around the industry. I'm reading our expert survey, right, which you get if you're a premium member. So click on that link in the description, get $10 off your first month. I mean, I'm reading our content. I'm looking at the sim tool. I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's like it seems like everyone thinks the Chargers are like a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. People are like, well, kickers and defenses, Broncos are horrible. But like the betting market, they're 4-point favorites, the Chargers at home. And typically like 3 points counts towards like the home field. So on a neutral playing ground, you're saying this is nearly a pick 'em. How come it feels like, I don't know about you, but my lineups tonight are scattered a lot with the Broncos players and maybe less so on Chargers players. Is this the game that maybe I'm not even saying that the Broncos win, but is this going to be a Broncos primetime game where by half we're wondering why we're still watching?
Possibly. Blender, earlier you said it's a 42.5.
45.5.
45, it probably should be like a 24.5 total, realistically, with the way these Broncos games have gone. I'm exaggerating, but we shall see. In the dome on the fast track, if you're part of the blitz, then the blitz is going to love these guys when they've got inside games, and Russell Wilson has some weapons. The question is, when does it come to fruition? Because his offense has looked it's just been in shambles. But you can't play everybody from the Chargers because, that's just not how you're not going to be able to do that. So how do you work a game like this out of your mind? And I'm just going to tell you, Blendon, this is what I was going to tell you before the show. I just decided I was going to commit to the sim tool tonight like never before. I can think for myself, and I know how things go, and I've looked at the sim tool, and I just decided right out of the gate, I'm not going to outsmart myself this week. The sim tool is going to be the guide, maybe a few variations in the captain, but mostly I'm just going to follow the direction of the sim tool, and we'll just see how it goes. And if it shakes out okay, I win. If it doesn't, it's the Broncos. I don't care. I'll be back next week.
Are you jamming in a lot of Austin Eckler then?
So here's where it gets different.
Because I have the sim tool up on the screen, by the way. This is premium content. I'm not supposed to be showing you this because this is for the paid people. But here's some of the stuff that you get on all the island games: Monday night, Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Sign up for premium. You get this. Some of this is like Akui Boonham is out. By the way, the inactives, like Allen is inactive. Akui Boonham for the Broncos is inactive. Everyone else, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, some defensive players or whatever, but if you can't roster them, I don't care about them. But the sim tool, we have the sim tool as like overwhelming Austin Eckler. Like, I could overwhelming Chargers captains, which I can understand, but I mean, like, it just. So I'm not saying that I want to play a lot of Russell Wilson. It just seems like the secondary players on the Broncos, because of their pricing, I feel like I like in an Austin Eckler captain lineup. Why can't I have Eckler in the captain, another Charger, and then 4 Broncos? Because if Austin Eckler goes nuts on the ground. Like, what do the Chargers really get there for their prices?
And you can. I think my tweak is I go a little bit heavier receiver. So, so like at captain usage, we've got a whole bunch of Eckler, and everybody's going to have a whole bunch of Eckler. And so I think I tweak it a bit, and I get more Cortland Sutton at captain than everybody else. Especially if you think, I mean, because think about it this way. The field thinks that the Chargers are going to run away with this game, essentially. But if they're running away, the Broncos will have to throw the ball to keep up. And so, but I don't think the Chargers are running away with it for what it's worth. This could very well be a Melvin Gordon game.
I'm glad to hear you say that. If you have Sutton in the captain, are you making sure to play Russell Wilson in the flex?
I am, because if Sutton has a good game, that doesn't mean Russ is going to have a great game. But if he catches any touchdowns, I do want to capture the upside. And if Sutton is scoring touchdowns tonight, Russ is having a real good game, because that's something Denver just cannot do. They're allergic to the end zone.
Let's just say that I'm playing 6 lineups tonight, semi-hand built. I even wrote them out, right? I look through them on Lineup HQ, and then I write them out so I can input them. Let's just say that one of my 6 lineups, Sutton the captain, and Gordon and Wilson in the flex.
Yeah.
I think people are off of. I think a lot of people at 4,800 are going to play Mike Boone, and I'm not saying that he's a bad play, but really, like, I know that like Gordon has these fumbling issues, but without Javonte Williams, like, this is essentially Melvin Gordon's backfield until proven otherwise. Like, he got benched in game last game, but I still think it's Gordon's backfield, and I think he's
still
more
had
likely
15 carries. He still had 15 carries, though. That's the thing, right? He literally still got the carries in the worst possible, like his worst possible game. He still got the work. So imagine if he doesn't fumble and has a good game. Like, he's going to get 20 carries if they're in control of this game.
And also, Will, you have to think. I know I'm putting on my football take hat, right? And I'm not a football take guy. I look at the numbers. But I like the fact that Melvin Gordon is probably going to be under-owned at 8,200. More people will play Sutton. I'm not saying you can't play them together. But if you take a look at the way that the Chargers defense is typically run, like, they almost invite you to run the ball, right? Don't they? They kind of funnel things to the middle of the field. They invite you to run the ball. And especially with the woes that the Broncos offense has had, like, if they could get 5 yards to play with Melvin Gordon, I could see Hackett, like, just taking it, just saying, instead, let's not start passing until we need to pass, and just let's give the ball to Gordon. Hey, I'm not opposed to playing Gordon and Boone in the same lineup. I wouldn't play Wilson in those lineups, but I wouldn't be opposed to that as well. So, like, I think more people on the Broncos side are going to be on, like, Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, something like that. I think the running Eckler will be more popular on the Chargers side, but flipping that around, like, I'm liking a lot of Bills that have Melvin Gordon and have, like, someone like Josh Palmer in it instead of, like, Mike Williams. I mean, here's the football take. Patrick Surtain. Uh-oh. Are you worried about Patrick Surtain on Mike Williams? I'm not. But all I know is that Mike Williams is 10-6. So he needs a lot more points to make his value than Josh Palmer at 5,800. And the last game, like, Palmer played like 80% of the snaps. It's not like the first couple of games of the season where Guyton was still in. I mean, Allen was out, but, like, at 5,800, I think Josh Palmer, I mean, I'm just looking at the projections. The blitz projections have him as, he's projected for 10 median points for 5,800. That's just underneath Judy at 7K and not that far away from guys like Gordon and Sutton or something like that. In this mid-range, I'd much rather play Palmer. I'd rather play Palmer than Everett or Boone or the kickers and the defenses, right? And then we have some punts underneath there. So, I don't know how you're building, but, my lineups, yes, I have a lot of Eckler. Yes, I have a lot of quarterbacks. I think Russell Wilson will go a little bit underowned. I think more people play Justin Herbert and Mike Williams. I think Josh Kelly, Sony Michel, the secondary Chargers running backs are way overpriced. They were $3K. I'd say go to take a shot.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with Dustin Hopkins. I'm perfectly fine with one of the kickers, but I think the defenses are going to go overowned because people are going to have this notion. It's a 45.5 total, and people are treating this like it should be like you said, a 24.5 total.
Yeah.
Here's the take of the slate. In 2 of my 6 lineups, I have a cheapo. I have a cheapo in, and I like the fact that Albert O is inactive. Are you, Will? Do you know who I'm talking about for $200 that I'm taking a shot on?
Gotta be Dulcich.
There you go. Yeah, out of UCLA, I'm using football takes, right? Out of UCLA, he's a pass catching tight end. Did great in preseason. Eric Saubert is not really a pass catching tight end. They're just kind of using him. He's the number 1 tight end, I guess. And then you have Andrew Beck, who's a blocker. Dulcich is a passing tight end. That. He's not there to block. He's coming off the IR hamstring injury. I'm not saying he's going to play a lot of snaps, but I think that the snaps that he does play, he's going to be one of the targets. I mean, it's very similar to how the Cowboys play with their tight ends. It's or with Isaiah Likely with the Ravens. It's
Correct.
He's not there to block. He's there because he's going to be on the first or second read of the play. So even if he only plays 20% of the snaps, he could still get 5 targets. He could still get 2 red zone targets. And for $200 down there, I'm willing to take a shot on. I'm assuming a lot of sharp players that use projections. We have him projected for 4.86% ownership. I figure he comes in around 5% owned, but there's no way any casual player. I mean, dude, no one's going to have this guy if you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I just need to point out that every second that you spend touting Greg Dulcich, we have to pay Pat Kerrane royalties. So just be a little careful on that.
Oh, what, he's got touting him chip chasing?
He's been touting Greg Dulcich since May. So,
well, this is the time then. This is when we get him while he's only $200 on a Broncos Showdown slate. Cameron Wallen in chat says it feels like Dulcich is going to get crazy steam, 15+%. Big steam. I think amongst sharper players, but if you're playing the large field contests, I mean, how much? We see this all the time. There's a guy that's here's the obvious value play, and he comes in at 12% owned when everyone projects him to be 25% owned. You don't understand how much dead money there are in these large field contests. In your smaller field stuff, a little bit higher stakes, maybe it'll be higher owned, and it'll especially appear a lot in 50K builds, 49K plus builds. But if you build a lineup that's 47K and you're instead of using a kicker or a defense or Hamler or Carter or something, just use Dulcich there and, hope that, he gets 9 points or something and ends up outscoring the kickers or defenses. So I don't know about you, Will, but 2 out of my 6 lineups, I got Dulcich in there. I don't know if you were on him at all. I mean, was that the first guy? If I need a cheap guy, that's who I'm going to.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think you still get some Saubert in there, just in case.
No, I think Saubert's fine. He's just that he's 2K. I have Saubert in 2 lineups. I have Dulcich in 2 lineups. So
yeah,
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just all I'm trying to do is get a cheap guy and I'm trying to avoid playing I have neither of the defenses. I have Dustin Hopkins in 3 out of my 6 lineups. But I'm not playing these double D, double kicker. People are going to. I know they're hot. They're in vogue, right? They've been showing up at top lineups or whatever. but that just means to me the combinations are overowned. They're always over duplicated. So like to me, like people may take a shot on Donald Parham. Latavius Murray may get some carries for the Broncos. I don't know about that. They'll take a look at Xander Horvath. I mean, there are guys then. Jason Moore, you never know. Kendall Hinton. I think Trey McKinney is not that much of a play anymore with Parham back. He's going to primarily be in blocking formations and not be any type of pass catcher. But I mean, dude, Tyree Cleveland is. I'm not saying that he's going to do anything. Tomlinson's going to be a blocker. I like this showdown because like there are people that are going to get snaps that are in this lower range. That if you want to sprinkle them in, I think you've no problem doing so.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the other side too, since we're kind of talking about tight end and Bills, like, you know, Gerald Everett, I need to check his ownership, but I think he's okay today. You know, he picked up, he's mostly had about 5 targets a game, mostly 5 to 6 targets a game in most of these games. Had 10 against Kansas City that game, obviously, but then 3 against Cleveland. I got to think he comes out and gets back to 5 to 6 targets here. So for 5,600, you know, for a guy that has some upside, like I don't think he's a bad play as well at 5,600. And I don't think you'll see too many lineups with like Everett and Dulcich. I want to pronounce his name right, so I'm sorry if I feel like I'm butchering it. I probably am, but I will get it right. Hopefully, Dulcich. Is it Dulcich or Dulcich?
Well, I'll learn how to pronounce his name once I win $1 million with him. So like that'll be fine. Maybe Rob knows. Does Rob knows?
Everyone says Dulcich.
Okay, so
Dulcich. Okay, thank you. I feel a lot more confident now that everybody's saying Dulcich. At any rate, but yeah, I think Gerald Everett is still in play here, despite the drop-off of targets last week. I'm not going to read too much in the last week, but all season he's been getting a hefty amount. So at 5,600, guys got a little bit of catch and run ability. Definitely a guy that could use around the goal line if it gets to that point. We know that Coach Brandon does not want to kick field goals. So if it's 4th and 3, you know, on the 5-yard line, they're more than likely going for it, and he's an option there. So I like him a lot, and I meant to see what his high opportunity targets was. He doesn't have a whole lot of high opportunity targets, but I'm still okay with
him.
it.
Will is the price. He's 5,600. He's priced as if Parham's going to get some of those snaps. He's not going to be on the field as much as he has been. And also they've been running some of these 3 wide receiver sets with DeAndre Carter in as well. So like to me, it's a price thing. If Everett was 2,000 cheaper, I'd be with you, but I'd much rather take a shot on Josh Palmer for $200 more. And I think and based on our ownership, he's less owned. I mean, like based on our ownership, at least, or at least the Blitz ownership.
Yeah.
Everett's going to be more owned than Palmer. Like,
no. I'm in on Josh Palmer too. I was just mentioning him because we were talking about tight end.
Okay. Someone was talk about we talked about the Denver running back situation. We're both to be on the same page that first off, it's a high variance situation. Can anyone be sure how many carries Gordon will get compared to Boone compared to Latavius Murray? But I think that's going to cause people to avoid the expensive running back more so than the cheaper ones. I think Boone is going to be overowned because he's 4,800. Like taking a shot on Latavius Murray is that's a dart throw. Like, dude, Latavius Murray could never see the field. I mean, like, it's quite possible that Latavius Murray does not get a snap. He's just there just in case. Or it's quite possible that like Latavius Murray is going to get 40% of the snap. It could happen that way, but understand you're risking like a total dust ball with Latavius Murray. Boone, you're more likely to get a nice median result, right? But I think the ownership is going to go with it. But I think people are going to be scared off of Gordon at 8,200 and go, well, why pay 8,200 for Gordon when I could just play Boone and maybe Boone gets 40% of the work, Gordon gets 40% of the work, and Latavius Murray mixes in. I just think that Gordon is more likely, if he's playing well, to continue to get the ball. So obviously, if he fumbles the first play, he's dead. I mean, yeah, you're getting it.
Well, so here's the thing.
But he's also more likely to get the goal line carry. Like he's much more likely to get the goal line carry.
But that's what I'm saying. We're hinging on a variance that could not show up. Like everybody's hinging on the fumbles. If he doesn't fumble in this game, does that impact him positively or negatively? It could be neither, because Mike Boone is still get work. Like when Javonte Williams was the guy, Melvin Gordon was still getting good work in the offense. So it's not like we don't think Melvin Gordon is not going to get 100% of the work, and it's also not going to be 80%. But it's probably 60-40, and Melvin Gordon I think he's still going to get more work than Mike Boone in this offense.
But I also think that Melvin Gordon, if he does get work, he gets more of the high value work.
Yes.
People in chat are saying Murray goal line carries. Dude, he's been on the team for a week and a half. I mean, there's also this thing of like, when you're new to a team, you don't know the whole playbook. Like, I know that he's just running into the line, right? Like if he's in, but I mean, if they put Latavius, like this is a football take, right? I always have to announce when it's a football take, because feel free to ignore any of my football takes. The goal line plays now, like teams are not necessarily just like running the ball. They're making these like are they going to run? Are they going to sweep? Is it going to be like this little Kansas City Chiefs pitch in the middle to, to the tight end? You have to imagine that a guy like Latavius Murray doesn't probably is not really in tune to the playbook enough that imagine if Murray's in for a first and goal on the 2, like the other team has to know that it's more likely that Murray's just running the ball down the middle than any of this or play action, if anything. Like it's one of the two that, because what is Latavius Murray going to do being on the team for 11 days?
Put on a jersey.
I'm more likely to see the thing, balance
and be moral support.
Right, it's like Mike Boone is the receiving, but Latavius Murray is. How does he get that? At what point?
So first of all,
ball in the end zone. But how is he going to get that shot?
Let me say this, Blender. This is not an attack on whoever put this in there. Mike Boone is not just the receiving back. Okay, that's false. So
he runs the ball normally.
And let me tell you why. And let me tell you why. Because Mike Boone is going to he's not going to just come in on third down. Like Melvin Gordon will get a drive and Mike Boone will get a drive. So he's not the receiving back. He's not going to come in on third down and then leave on first down. Like he's going to get a series of plays. So, for instance, James White was like a receiving back.
Right.
He wasn't going to get hardly any real carries. He'd come in when they need to throw the ball. He'd catch some passes. He'd have 7 targets and no carries. Okay, that's the receiving back. Mike Boone is probably going to have 8 to 10 carries in this game, right? And he may have 2 or 3 targets. So I'm just putting that out there, so we can clear that up, and that way you don't think of him like, oh, he's just coming on third down to catch passes. He's going to have a ton of targets and have 5 catches. That's not Mike Boone. He's going to have a series of plays that he participates in, just like Melvin Gordon is going to have his shots. But Melvin is going to have probably more like 6% of those plays and Boone more like 40%. Hopefully that helps everybody out.
People in chat, I hate these types of questions. I'm sorry, IO22, EU, or whatever the name. Is 5-1 Broncos onslaught build too risky for single entry? The whole goal is to win first place in a GPP. If you're looking at your lineup, okay, this is the showdown rule, okay? Everyone gather together. The showdown rule, right? Okay. If you're building your lineup, no matter if you're playing single entry, large field, or whatever, if you're playing a GPP, your goal is to win first place solo, okay?
Man.
If you can. If you build your lineup and you're like, wow, I like my lineup. That's pretty comfortable. I feel like it's safe. It's a horrible lineup. Don't play it. If you're looking at your lineup and going, and you're like, is this too risky? Then you should be playing that lineup. It's not going to, you understand you're going to not cash like 90% of the time. Your hope is that when does work, you're winning first place. That's the way you should be playing DFS GPPs. So, yes, a risky way to play, the too risky would be here. I'll show you a too risky lineup. Let's put Kendall Hinton in the captain and then play Xander Horvath, and let's leave 37,000 on the table. Like, yeah, that's too risky. Like the likelihood of like an asteroid coming down and knocking out both first teams of the entire game and having the backups play the whole game is probably very, very small, right? So probably that's too risky. But if you're spending like 48K, if you're spending 45K plus on any lineup, it can't be too risky. There's no such thing as too risky. Like
let me just say too, Blender, my primary build, I actually have 1,800 left. Okay. And that's my no, I know. I'm just putting that out there so people understand. Like, that's my primary build. Like, that's my main team that I'll put in the single entry. It's got 1,800 left.
Rob was going to cut in because he has a Dulcich captain lineup. Probably.
No, I need to know where I can bet on this asteroid hitting the game so that we don't have to watch the Broncos in prime time anymore. Do you have any tips on where to? I mean, you're the prop guy. Will.
You could go to BetMGM, use the promo code Grinders.
There we go.
I would say
bet for that, but you could.
I would say the closest you're going to get to that is like your local bookie around the corner in like Philly somewhere. And I know you're not in Philly, but I'm just using that as an example.
I can get there.
I think from an ownership standpoint, I'm not talking about what I think is going to happen. I think more people are building lineups for this slate in two conditions. One, Chargers roll, right? Like they roll, they beat them by 2+, 3+ scores. Or that this game is like 10-3. Like they're building for a very low scoring game. Me personally, I'm building as if this is a competitive game that goes over the total. Is it less likely to happen? Yeah, it's not about what's more probable and not probable. It's what's more profitable. And to me, it's more profitable to build as if this is more of a shootout when people are building as if it's not going to be. So, like, I'm gonna, dude. If I have Russell Wilson overs 226.5 passing yards. The blitz likes that. The blitz is way over on Russell Wilson passing yards. So, like, I'm going for the Broncos. Maybe they don't win, but maybe it's not as bad as it's been.
Yeah. I mean, I can get with that for sure.
Now, if so many people were building for that, I would build the opposite. Then I'm playing defenses and kickers, right? So that's really comes down to what's the more efficient way to build based on what your opponents are going to do. And opponents are not going to play Melvin Gordon enough. My opponents are not going to play Josh Palmer enough. My opponents are not going to hopefully not play Greg Dulcich enough. Right? So I'm gonna go with DeAndre Carter. I think he's not a sexy play. But if you make the case that Gerald Everett won't be on the field as much and that Mike Williams is going to be, certained out of the schemed out or something, like, DeAndre Carter could easily catch these 8-yard balls in the middle of the field. And maybe one of them is a touchdown and he's 2,600. And people are more likely to play the kickers and the defenses maybe than him.
I'm with you, brother.
And you know what's going to end up happening, Will? It's going to be a kicker or a defense captain lineup or something. Right? It's going to end up being one of those types of slates. And I'm like, another one. Another one gets it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Brandon McManus for what it's worth. Just because of Denver's woes in scoring in the red zone. And they are a team that will attempt field goals. Like, when guys can kick 50-yarders, I tend to get, pretty excited. Like if they kick 3 field goals, like if one's a 50, one's a 40, one's a 30, now you're at 12, and then they happen to score 13 fantasy points at 3,800. I'm telling you right now, if Brandon McManus scores 13 fantasy points, he's outscoring Mike Boone straight up and probably almost every other cheap play.
Is your thesis of McManus over Hopkins is because Staley's more likely to go for it on fourth and long?
Correct. Staley is
like 40-yard line.
Yeah. Staley's less likely to kick field goals. Like I said, if it's 4th and 3 on the 5, He's not kicking a field goal. He's going for it. Like you already know this. So there's no reason to invest in Hopkins. Or you could take the opposite approach and say, yeah, Staley's going to completely abandon that philosophy tonight, and Hopkins is going to kick 4 field goals. Okay, well, if you think that, play Hopkins and try to ride that to the money. But I'm going to stick with coaching philosophy.
Will, my Hopkins thesis on why I'm playing him over McManus is, remember, I'm playing more Broncos than I am Chargers. So which means that I'm assuming that Mike Williams doesn't have a touchdown. I'm assuming that Eckler doesn't have a touchdown. I'm assuming that the Chargers offense is the thing that stalls. They get tons of yards, but they score less touchdowns and more likely to be it's 4th and 5 on the 32, on the 33, and they do kick that field. They kick that field goal. But I agree with you completely. If they're inside the 5-yard line, they ain't kicking field goals. And if it's 4th and 1 on the
that's what I'm saying. 4th and 1 on the 30, right? They're not kicking. That's really more. That's really more the real scenario, right? Like 4th and 2 on the 35. They're going for it. They're not kicking a field goal.
But if it's 4th and 6 from that point,
of course, yeah, absolutely. And Denver is more likely to be in a 4th and 6 situation on the 38 than the Chargers.
Also, with Hackett, they're more likely to be 4th and goal on the 1 and kick the field goal.
Well, but here's the thing: I don't have a problem when coaches take points. Like in Staley's case, they could probably win a lot more games if they kick more of those 4th and 2 field goals on the 34. But that's not his philosophy. I can't knock him.
The math says, Will, that's not what the math says.
I don't care what the math says.
You don't care. Oh, okay.
No. I'm saying in this scenario, let me clarify. Coaches have costed their teams a lot of games over the past, and I've been watching the game saying, okay, if they kick that field goal when it was 4th and 2 on the 35, they literally win this game. They don't even have to be in this situation because it's more about what. So here's the thing about field goals, because we've already covered this slate. Like, I think people know what to do. It's more about what's
left, right? If your lineups aren't in by now, you're done.
Yeah, it's more about what's going to happen in the last 2 minutes of this game, Blender, if it's close, right? So here's what happens. The coach doesn't kick a field goal with 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter, down by, let's say, 5. Let's go with the odd number. They're down by 5, and it's 8 minutes left. They've got 3 timeouts, and it's 4th and 1 on the 35. And they go for it. And they don't get it, right? They don't get it. But so the other team gets the ball and they stall out. Now they get the ball back with about 4 minutes and 32 seconds, let's say. And now they're forced to try to go down and score. And they're forced to score a touchdown. Where if they would have just taken the points and got a stop, now they don't have to go the full length of the field to try to keep this game within arm's reach. They can literally drive the ball down the field, Blender, milk the whole clock, and guess who has to use their timeouts now? The other team now says, wait a minute, we're going to have to save some time here because they're going to get in the field goal range and kick this ball. And we'll be down by 1 with 40 seconds left. Like that's what I'm talking about. With the little
coming up with the situation, obviously they're going to change what they do depending on if they got the field goal or the other team's plays change. Everything changes.
But what I'm saying, Blender, is this is the point of taking the points. That's the point I'm trying to demonstrate. When you take the points,
and that can be proven mathematically. So you could do it mathematically, and it would be better to not to go for it.
Yeah, no,
it's the same. Will you coach basketball, right?
Correct.
Okay. What has the Warriors and the Rockets shown us over the past decade? That shooting 40% from 3 is worth more than shooting 65% from 2. Right?
Okay.
So do you understand why the Rockets, like if you look at their shot chart, they're taking a lot of shots at the rim or at the 3-point line, but nothing in the middle. It's the same instance here in football.
No, I understand. Listen, I understand. But here's what I'm saying, because I don't want anybody to think my thinking is archaic. My point is,
I think you don't want to. I already do think it's archaic.
No, but it's not about. So if it's 4th and 5, I mean 4th and 2 on the 2-yard line, like don't go trotting out there to kick a field goal, because the odds are in your favor. The odds are more in your favor, and now the other team has a lot further to go, right, to score a touchdown, even if you don't get it. It's
the probability of that versus the points that you get. That's all it is.
Right. So what I'm saying is,
how often do you score on 4th and 2 from the 2-yard line is X percentage, and that's worth 6 points or 7 if you count the extra point.
Right.
And
sure.
how many times do you get you're going to kick the field goal? You're going to have a 98+% field goal rate from there to get. So that's worth, kicking the field goal is worth 2.9 points. And let's say you get 7, right? Because you'll kick the extra point, and you score on that play like 65% of the time. Well, what's 65% of 7? So that play is worth 4.5 points. So like obviously you go for it. Like that. I mean, that's really all you're doing. And depending on where you're on the field.
I understand, but here's what I'm saying. I think so I don't think there should be one or the other, right? Not one or the other. I think there has to you have to
make a choice, Will.
No. So see, here's where my experience of both sides comes into play, right? You can use the numbers, right? You can't use the numbers, but sometimes you still have to combine the two. I don't think we've made it, or the media has made it. You do this or you do that, and that's not sports.
It's
sports.
Math,
sports.
Will, it's
No, I got you, but sports is still intuitive.
Well, I used it. I 2 + 2 could be 4, but I mean, it's kind of like you have to there's a nuance. No,
but Blender, sports is intuitive, right? Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Yes, the Warriors themselves have made this culture shift to where they're going to shoot more threes, but you can't do that unless you go out and get the players to do it. You can't just decide, oh, we're just going to shoot 100 3-pointers a game and hope they all go in. No, you have to have the personnel to get it done, right? So intuitively, okay, if we're going to make a culture shift, I have to go and find players, right, that have the skill set that I need to achieve what I'm trying to do, right? Which is what the Rockets did under D'Antoni, and the Warriors gradually got there because they realized, wait a minute, we've got some of the best shooters in the league. And so guess what the league did? The league said, oh, this is how you win. But they don't go and get the personnel to achieve the same success. Here's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is,
I agree with you on that point.
So sports is still intuitive, right? There's the analytic side that says, yes, you should do this, right? You should. But there's still a component of common sense. And when you know, right, like the Cowboys, for example, the Cowboys have probably been kicking more field goals than anybody over the past few weeks with a anemic offense almost that hasn't been able to score a lot of points, but their defense has been good. What have they been doing? Taking the points. If every time they had a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 in the 30s, they went for it, guess what? Some of these outcomes in the games are different. So they've been taking the points, and they get a stop, and then they kick another field goal. And the Jets have done the same thing. Now, they've scored more touchdowns recently, but they've kicked tons of field goals. What I'm saying is there's beauty in taking the points. I can tell you right now, Jim Harbaugh and Coach Allen have costed their teams games by not taking the points, right? Because they've got the personnel to score, but they don't have
they've cost themselves games by not going for it also. You can say the same thing on the other side. I mean, we're making up these arguments. Rob, you're the decision maker. You're the judge.
Well, I just want to congratulate Will for actually blaming the mainstream media on the current state of sports. That was amazing. And the Chargers.
No, I'm not blaming them.
They just went for it on 4th and 2. So
there you go.
Did they get it?
Yeah, they got it.
Did they get it, Rob?
They did.
Good for them. Good for them.
What yard line was it?
The 30 on the opposing 37.
See, there you go, right?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I have no.
They should have taken the point. They should have tried for the 51-yard field goal. Should have taken the point.
They could have, but guess what? What's the score right now?
Well, 0-0.
Okay, range of outcomes changes. The other team's got 7. Seriously, like I'm telling you, like I don't. We'll probably disagree, and that's what makes us a good tandem on this, Blender, because we don't have to agree to have a good show. But I'm telling you, take more points. Take more points. Because with a team like Denver, the more points you take, the higher likelihood of your chance of winning. This offense is anemic. They can't even score touchdowns. All right, I'm done.
We'll see. Why don't we go watch the game instead of argue on the street?
That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
I thought we were.
And I'm rooting for them to go for it all the time.
I was just ready to do this the whole game, guys. Like we could just, every time they go for it on fourth, we could scream at each other.
Okay. Well, good luck to everyone that's not in my contest because I want to win solo. Good luck to Will, Rob, the producer. We'll see you next week. Another edition of the NFL Pre-Lock Show on RotoGrinders.com.